NFL free agency is right around the corner, and on today's edition of the Commanders Report, we're going to be taking a look here at the current Commanders players that are slated to hit the NFL free agency market here during the 2024 offseason. I'm going to be going over which players the Commanders should consider re-signing and which ones they should absolutely let walk. Before we get into today's action, do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now because, guys, it's going to be a huge offseason for the Washington Commanders. They're going to be hiring a new head coach. They might even get a new quarterback. They're going to be making big signings with all that cap space that they have, and they have 5 picks in the top 100 of the 2024 NFL Draft. It's going to be the start of a new era of football here in Washington. So join us and get all of your updates this offseason by clicking that subscribe button right now. So let's start with the current cap space that the Commanders will have to work with here this offseason, which is just over $80 million. I mean, goodness gracious. And this isn't even accounting for all the players that they may cut as well. That'll probably be a future video where we go over the players that they'll likely cut to add even more cap space this offseason. And then you could also restructure and you could do some of these other magic tricks here to get more cap space next year. So Washington is going to have a ton of money to spend in free agency. But the big question is, how much of that money do you spend on bringing players back? So on today's show, we're going to break this up into 2 parts. First part is going to be a list of 10 players that I would consider re-signing during the 2024 offseason. Then we'll get to the players that I'm letting walk pretty much no matter what. So without further ado, let's get into probably the number 1 re-sign target here for the Washington Commanders this offseason, and that's number 1 corner, Kendall Fuller. He has a PFF grade of 80.9. He's been one of the highest graded cornerbacks in the National Football League, and he's been the highest graded defender for the Commanders this season. So like I said, guys, he's top 10 corner in the league right now according to Pro Football Focus grading, and he's easily been the best defender on the Commanders defense this year, and we know how bad this defense has been. It's arguably the worst in the league. Statistically, it is the worst, and ever since they got rid of Montez Sweat and Chase Young, they've just been absolutely terrible. But Kendall Fuller holding his own. He had a really good season last year as well. He's only 28 years old. He'll be 29 next year, so he's not necessarily young anymore, but he's a solid veteran and a legit number 1 guy, especially in a Fangio-style defense like the Commanders currently run. The market value right now, according to Spotrac, says his next contract is going to be about 3 years, $14 million per season, which actually for a number 1 corner isn't all that bad. So for me, I think you bring him back if the defensive scheme is kind of similar to what the Commanders already run. Lots of man-match coverages, lots of zone. But if they bring in a guy like Brian Flores, for example, who runs a lot of man coverage, who runs a lot of cover 0, and he's going to be asked to be one-on-one with some of the most dynamic route runners in the National Football League, not so sure I think that he's worth $14 million a year. I think he's more of an instinctual kind of corner where he likes to have his eyes on the quarterback. He likes to read. He likes to react. He likes to use his acceleration. He's not necessarily a one-on-one press man corner type that can just delete wide receivers from plays. That's not really his style. So I think that re-signing Fuller should be priority number 1 if he fits the defense. But if you bring in a guy like Flores, you can probably let him walk. But in most defenses, I think that he fits. So I think if I'm going to pick any player on this Commanders roster to bring back for 2024, it's going to be Kendall Fuller. All right, number 2 on my list, Kamren Curl, the number 2 graded safety in the National Football League last year, has actually taken a dip in play this season. It's really going to affect his contract, in my opinion. So right now, his Pro Football Focus grade is sitting at a 69.5, which is good for 33rd in the National Football League. So he hasn't had a bad season. He's the 2nd highest graded defender on the Commanders defense right now. But he's gone from the 2nd highest graded guy in the league at the safety position to 33rd in just 1 year. That has me a little bit concerned, especially because Spotrac currently has his market value at 4 years, $15.3 million per season. That would be even more than what Kendall Fuller is expected to make. So this would be a tough call because I like Kamren Curl as a player. I think that he's a really good box safety, generally a good tackler. But at this point, when you're trying to build up a new roster, is paying $15+ million to a safety of all positions really the building block that you want to set in place, or do you maybe want to use your available cap space to go out and get, a future left tackle, an edge rusher, a number one corner if you don't bring back Kendall Fuller, and kind of fill out some of those higher value positions and spend this money on positions that really, really matter in terms of building a really good football team moving into the future. So this is a tough call for me, guys, but let me know down there in the comment section what you guys think. Would you re-sign Cam Curl for $15 million or more this offseason? Type S for sign or type P for pass. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. All right, number 3 on the list here, Curtis Samuel, slot wide receivers. Had a good season, and he's a very, very solid slot receiver that's really good on jet sweeps. He's a good gadget guy. He can even play a little bit of running back for you if you need. Now, he's definitely not a dynamic number 1 or even really a number 2 guy. He's more of someone that's a luxury to have on your roster, if we're being completely honest with you. So, you look at that market value there from Spotrac, 3 years, almost $12 million. I'm not necessarily sure if the Commanders want to pay Curtis Samuel that kind of dough when you're trying to fill out some of these other important positions like we talked about earlier, like potentially quarterback, left tackle, corner. You got a edge rusher, right? So you got all these different positions you got to fill. Is slot wide receiver really going to be a priority for Washington this year, especially because you have Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, and Mitchell Tinsley actually looks really, really good as a potential person that could step into this role, maybe even Jamison Crowder as well. So I do think for the right price, right, if you can get him for maybe under $10 million, I'd bring back Curtis Samuel in a heartbeat, but it's got to be for the right price. If it's $11+ million, I'm going to say we're going to let him walk, and we're going to bring in somebody else to fill that spot. Now, coming up here, should the Commanders bring back Antonio Gibson here if it's for the right price? I'm going to let you know what I think here in just a second. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. If you're looking for a way to spice up your game days this NFL season, PrizePicks is going to be perfect for you because it's a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. And you might be asking yourselves, how does daily fantasy sports work? Well, good thing I'm here to tell you. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So this weekend here, week 16, I'm going to take the more on Terry McLaurin receiving yards. Okay, I'm going to take the more on Christian McCaffrey rush yards. I think he's going to get more than 100 yards rushing this weekend. And I think I'm going to take the new promotion that they got at PrizePicks right now. It's called Demons and Goblins, where the Demons are lower level bets, like lower percentage bets, but you get higher payouts. And then the Goblins are the higher percentage bets that are lower payouts. All right, so this is a Josh Allen demon right here. I get over 100 times my money here on that Josh Allen pick if I nail that one. So let's get that going right now. Check it out now at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for first deposit match up to $100 today. With PrizePicks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So get started right now. Get your picks in before week 16. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. So now number 4 on the list, Antonio Gibson. And by the way, if you see somebody on this list, that doesn't necessarily mean that I think they should be re-signed. I just think that you should consider it. And you know what? For the right price, I would bring back Antonio Gibson, who is somebody that's a versatile chess piece on offense. He can play slot receiver if you need. He's also has experience as a running back. Now, he's not a number 1 guy, and, running back is definitely not a high-value position by any means, especially backup running back. So it would have to be a really, really good contract for the Commanders here. It's got to be probably close to the vet minimum for me to want to bring him back. You can get a good running back in the draft. You can get all these different things. You could get a good back in free agency as well. So if Antonio wants to be a Commander and he wants to re-sign, great, but it's going to have to be on a team-friendly deal. Now, number 5 on my list, somebody that I'd love to have, but I don't think will come back, is Jacoby Brissett, the backup quarterback. Currently a Pro Football Focus grade of 92, thanks to that amazing performance that he had in the fourth quarter against the Rams last week. You can make an argument that he's a better quarterback than Sam Howell right now. And the unfortunate part of this is that although I would love him to come back as the high-end backup quarterback that he is, I think because of that performance, he's going to have potentially an opportunity to go be a bridge quarterback with another team elsewhere here, maybe like a Pittsburgh Steelers or somewhere. And I just don't know if he's going to want to come back and be a bona fide backup here in Washington. Don't think Washington wants to go into the future with him as their starting quarterback. And even if they replace Sam Howell, I don't think Brissett's going to want to come back as a bona fide backup. All right, now we can get rolling here on the video where we got Jeremy Reaves, the special teams extraordinaire, a really, really great player. If you can get him back for a nice contract, kind of that special teams ace, I'd love to have Jeremy back here in Washington. Also, Jamison Crowder, speaking of special teams aces, Crowder is somebody that can play in the slot. He's a really good punt returner. He's had a good season here, one of the best pickups for the Commanders this year, and they got him in the middle of the season. Then you get to a swing tackle here, Cornelius Lucas, for the right price, vet minimum type contract. I would totally bring back Lucas. I think he's a really good option as a swing tackle, and especially if you're going to be getting rid of Charles Leno Jr. and cutting him this offseason, I like bringing back Cornelius Lucas to mentor whoever you're taking in the 2024 NFL draft. And then we get to edge rusher here, and the Commanders have a pair of pretty decent edge rushers that are good rotational pieces. So if they want to come back on team-friendly deals, I'd be perfectly happy to bring back James Smith-Williams and or Casey Toohill. I think they're both good rotation pieces. Definitely not full-time starters, but if they want to come back on team-friendly deals and become a rotational piece in the next defensive scheme, I think I would be perfectly okay with that as well. Now, the players that I think that the Commanders should absolutely just let walk at this point, Joey Sly, I think there's better kickers out there. He's been not very reliable this year, in my opinion. He missed some really, really big kicks early on this year. Byron Pringle's a backup wide receiver. You can let him walk. Tyler Larson and Sadiq Charles have not been good along the offensive line this year. I don't want him back at all. F.A. Obata, David Bada as well. And then Cody Barton and Khalil Hudson, two inside linebackers that I just don't think are really up to snuff right now. That inside linebacker position is something the Commanders are going to have to spend a lot of time and energy fixing this offseason, and you can start by letting Cody Barton and Khalil Hudson walk in free agency. Now, let me know down there in the comments section, which Commanders free agent do you want to bring back next offseason? Is it Kamren Curl? Is it Kendall Fuller? Is it maybe, I don't know, Jacoby Brissett, Antonio Gibson? Let me know down there in the comments section which Commanders free agent you want to bring back for 2024. That'll be it for me today, Commanders fans. Thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button. It's going to be a huge offseason upcoming. We got videos for you guys every single week, breaking it all down, getting you guys ready for this 2024 offseason.